On the 2nd of July 1951, at around 8 AM, a landlady named Pansy Carpenter was delivering a telegram to her tenant, Mary Reeser. Upon arriving at the house, Pansy noticed the door handle was suspiciously warm to the touch, so she called the police. When the police arrived and they entered the home, they found Mary's body completely burnt to ash. All that remained of her was her backbone, skull, and left foot, which was wearing a slipper. She is believed to be a victim of the terrifying phenomenon, spontaneous human combustion. Before we get into the real meat of the video, let's talk about that story I just started with. Yes, that is a real thing that happened. A woman named Mary Reeser was found burned to a crisp in her house. No, it wasn't made up, it is genuinely real. However, we won't be focusing on her specifically. We will be instead focusing on spontaneous human combustion as a whole. Next thing, what even is spontaneous human combustion? Spontaneous human combustion is a rare phenomenon where a living or sometimes deceased person suddenly bursts into flames without a source of ignition. Now that we've got that covered, we can go a bit deeper into spontaneous human combustion and take a look at the finer details involved. The details of spontaneous human combustion are sadly quite vague because it is such a rare phenomenon. However, we do know a few things. For example, the fire or heat that causes a person to be burnt to ash is believed to come from the inside of the body. The people who are found to be victims of the phenomenon also have multiple things in common, such as being found with one or more body parts still intact. These tend to be things such as feet or legs, but hands have also been found. The victims also tend to be big fans of alcohol. Interestingly, it would also appear that elderly people are the most affected by this phenomenon. The victim's surroundings are also found to be fairly intact. By this I mean that the victim is the only thing that is burnt to ash. The fire does not seem to spread. The remains of the victims also leave a greasy residue and foul-smelling ashes. So, I think we have fully established what spontaneous human combustion is. But then, what causes it? Well, the real answer is, we don't know. But that doesn't stop people from theorising, which takes me onto my next few sections. The first theory I have today suggests that the cause of spontaneous human combustion is more paranormal. It suggests that there may be other forces at play here. Yes, we're starting off with one of these kinds of theories. The theory gives the idea that maybe the victims had underlying psychic abilities that allowed them to control fire. We call this pyrokinesis. It goes on to say that it's possible that the victims accidentally awoke their pyrokinetic abilities and burnt themselves to death because they were unable to control it. Now, as cool as this is, and I would damn well love to be able to control fire with my mind, this just doesn't have any scientific basis behind it, and I feel like there is a more reasonable explanation for this phenomenon than just psychic fire powers. A similar theory related to this one says that the fire is caused by poltergeists, which are ghostly entities known for causing havoc. According to this theory, the poltergeists kill the victim for pure fun. by starting a fire from inside of them. Now, I don't know whether it's just me, but the thought of that happening is horrifying, especially since it obviously has so much evidence to back it up. So I'm not going to dwell on it any longer. No sir, I'm not opening that can of worms today. The phenomenon involved in this next theory might be familiar to some of you, because it was also used as an explanation for a certain cryptid that appeared in India. I swear, I'm not intentionally trying to reference this one video this many times. This is just a coincidence. Anyway, a man named John Abrahamson suggested that the phenomenon ball lightning could be an explanation for spontaneous human combustion. Ball lightning, if you don't know, is a phenomenon where fast-moving luminous balls of light appear with no explanation. So basically, this is an unsolved phenomenon within an unsolved phenomenon. Phenomenonception. Back on topic, the reason why this phenomenon was suggested is because it can cause pain, charring, or even death to humans if they are hit. So it is possible it could cause spontaneous human combustion, as if one of these balls were big enough, then they could potentially set someone alight. But in my opinion, this is just too small a link, and it doesn't really make sense to use ball lightning to explain spontaneous human combustion, when there are definitely better explanations out there, like the poltergeist one. A man named Larry E. Arnold gave his own explanation for spontaneous human combustion in his book, A Blaze. He said that spontaneous human combustion was caused by a new subatomic particle called a pyroton. The idea is that this pyroton by chance interacts with the body's cells and causes a mini explosion of sorts. According to him, it is very rare for this to happen, but chances can be increased by extreme stress and/or alcohol. Yet again, this is just a theory. In fact, it's not even that. It's just a made-up thing with no grounds to it at all. It is interesting though, but it makes no sense because it's clearly poltergeists. Truth be told, there are a lot of theories, but I don't want to have a 2-hour video on spontaneous human combustion, so this is the final theory. It's called the wick effect, or the candle effect. This is the name given to the partial destruction of a human body by fire when the clothing of the victim soaks up melted human fat and acts like the wick of a candle. It sounds pretty gross, right? Well, it kind of is. So how does it apply to spontaneous human combustion? Well, the theory is that the victims of this phenomenon fall asleep or pass out either smoking or near some kind of fire source. Their clothing then ignites, and over the next few hours the heat from the fire melts their body fat, which is then absorbed by the clothes they are wearing. This allows the person to burn for a long period of time. The heat is also contained, which is why it doesn't spread. Eventually, the heat becomes so intense that the person stops melting and instead they turn to ash. This explains the foul smell, which is because they have been burning in their own fat for hours. This also explains why legs or feet are often left over, because heat rises, so naturally it would leave the bottom half of a person intact. To summarise, you should always shower regularly, you should never wear clothes, do not under any circumstance fall asleep, and don't become an elderly person, which won't be difficult if you don't ever fall asleep again. Because if you do any of these things, you just might spontaneously burst into flames and die. Or maybe the lesson is that you probably won't ever burst into flames randomly and you should just live your life with whatever happening. Nah, it's poltergeists. Thank you everyone so much for watching. Click like and subscribe if you like what you saw, and if you hated it, let me know in the comments what went wrong. I do really hope you enjoyed today's episode though. This has never been a fear of mine, but I have always wondered what caused it, so it's nice to know I probably won't burst into flames. Probably. To be honest, I think the real question is how many damn times I'm going to make the same jokes every episode, and will I ever stop? The answer is no, I will never stop. Nobody can fire me. Anyway, thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye!